Andrés from Tierra Prieta joins us and breaks down biochar, carbon credits, and why this isn't a silver bullet. It's a specific tool for a specific problem. If you want a founder story that's equal parts passion and precision, you're gonna like this one. You are an engineer, that's your education, and now you work in sustainability. Give me a little bit of context as to who you are and how you came across your business.
Engineering and my training as an engineer in school is actually directly related to this company. So it was maybe 2014, and we were developing a project to create biodiesel out of spent coffee grounds. And this was, biodiesel was, at that point, it was one of the most important topics in sustainability. Everybody was talking about biodiesel, let's get biodiesel out of this residue and everything. So there was a big a hustle to get biodiesel out of it. So of course, that's what we decided to work on our senior project. And just doing that work in the lab and, at a small plant back in Tucson, Arizona, we found a way that, we could make biodiesel out of spent coffee grounds. It is feasible in the lab, but it was not very economic. It didn't make sense to deploy it. And I didn't want to present, those relatively bad conclusions. I mean, I wanted to do something with it. I got really excited. I loved working with it, just collecting the spent coffee grounds, just doing the whole engineering and the lab work. And so I decided to go a little bit further, and together with my team at the time, we just delved into what other options we have. I mean, we still have a physical residue. So the way that you that you create biodiesel out of spent coffee grounds is first you extract the lipids, all the fat, so to say, that you still have, the oil, and then you do a lab process with methylation and other stuff, and then you get biodiesel. But you still have the physical residue left. And we said, okay, let's see what else we can do. And the traditional uses would be you can either burn it as fuel, or you can compost it and use it as fertilizer. And we wanted to do something else. And that was a part of my job at the team. I just went into academic literature. I learned a lot. And by chance, I just stumbled into biochar. You're burning something unsuccessfully, basically. That's what you do. So we heated up the spent coffee grounds, which you can do to basically any biomass. And you don't allow it to oxidize. So if you heat it in a closed chamber, you will first get water vapor out, and then you will get some volatile vapors out that are combustible that you can then combust and keep the reaction going. But as long as you don't let oxygen in, it will carbonize. It will be charcoal. We are creating charcoal. And what's really magical about that is it's two things. One is that by doing that unsuccessful burning or pyrolysis, you're actually creating a very, very stable carbon. So for the spent coffee ground, if you just leave it and you throw it to the landfill, you do anything else with it, it will eventually degrade and the carbon will be released back to the atmosphere. But if you do this pyrolysis, you're creating a very stable, basically mineral carbon, like the one you have on mines, and that will last for centuries or millennia. And I decided, okay, this is something very, very interesting. And on top of that, just because of its structure, it's very porous. It's like a small sponge. It can be used in agriculture. So if you mix it in with soil, it will absorb water, it will absorb nutrients, either those that are naturally in the soil or that you add through chemical fertilizer or organic fertilizer. It will just improve what you already have, just because it will hold it closer to the roots for longer. Once I realized both of these things, and the science was already established, but it was not very widespread, I just fell in love with biochar, and that's something that I've kept with me for almost, it's been 11 years now.
Wow, yeah. Obviously, you're passionate about it, which is something incredible. You said that it was non-economical when you started. I'm curious about what was it that was expensive about the process originally?
The most important part was just the collection of the biomass. I mean, if you're talking about spent coffee grounds, I mean, you would imagine that, you go to Starbucks, you go to any coffee shop, and you would imagine that they will have a large amount of biomass. And they do. The thing is, it's not enough to make it viable because you will have to hire a truck, and then you will have to go all throughout the city to fill it and then to process it. So that part was not very economical. And there's a second step, which is the drying. So of course, if you create coffee, they're wet, the spent coffee grounds. And to dry it, it takes a lot of money to do it efficiently. I mean, of course, you can just leave it to the sun, but I mean, you don't control the weather. And it could take a lot of time, and it will degrade at some point. I mean, your yield just goes way down compared to the weight of the biomass that you get in versus the output that you can reliably export. I mean, the economics just wouldn't make sense. And you're competing against biodiesel that's created from spent frying oil, which is already concentrated, and you don't have to dry anything. You just have to refine it a little bit, and you just go to the fast food restaurants and they have gallons and gallons of stuff. I mean, if you're competing against that, then yeah, maybe biodiesel is not the way for this waste valorization.
So you stepped away from coffee grounds for that reason?
Well, not initially. Actually, when I came back home to Monterrey, I lived with my parents, and my brother and I, we just went to coffee shops, collected spent coffee grounds, and tried to make biochar in the garage. It was extremely inefficient, but we were able to get some decent quality biochar, and that's how we started. I mean, of course, it wasn't the best quality biochar. It was uncooked, so to say, at some point. Tremendous problems with moisture, with smell. We tried to dry it, but yeah, it didn't work out as well. And that's when we realized, okay, why are we complicating ourselves too much? Let's just go and get wood residue. And that's how we started the first phase of the business. It was just, I mean, you can see here in Chipinque, I mean, there's just a lot of wood, and people, trim their trees. I mean, their gardens. And so we went with a truck just throughout the neighborhood, and I think it was Monday at that time, people just leave out their waste, their waste branches and everything for municipal cleanup. We thought, okay, let's just go a little bit earlier than the municipal cleanup and claim for ourselves. I don't think it's stealing, but it's maybe on a gray line.
Yeah,
but,
the gray area there, yeah.
The gray area, but we took all the branches from the neighborhood, and it was a much more efficient process. And that's how we built, the first part of the business. It was a very unsophisticated process. We just made small bags of biochar. We sold them to gardening clubs. We got, maybe 10 gardening projects, large-scale garden projects. And it was some decent money, for a summer job, but it wasn't anything spectacular.
So it sounds like you turned what was originally like a passion, obviously, into a business. Was it always the plan to turn it into a business, or was it just something that you were like, hey, I want to experiment with this and see where it goes?
We always wanted to turn it into a business. My brother and I, my brother Alejandro, who's been with me since the very beginning, we wanted to turn it into a business, but we were very realistic, and we didn't have a business at the beginning. I mean, we were just... It took a lot of manpower to create 1 kilo of biochar. We weren't even thinking about tons. The largest contract that we had was at that point for 2.5 tons. I actually bought my first car with that income, but it took months of work. So we realized that there was something here, but we weren't yet sure that it will be a profitable business. We did it because we loved it. I mean, you're burning stuff. To be honest, it's quite fun.
yeah, I can imagine.
You're burning stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we just had it as a summer job. Then I got my career. I started a career as a chemical commodities trader. So I realized, okay, I mean, the money is much better here than it is here. But I still wanted, on the weekends, my brother, I mean, he's younger than me, so that was his summer job. And we always believed that there was something that we can do, but the economics just didn't make sense at that point, because we were just selling the biochar. The carbon removal market was non-existent at that point.
Did you find it hard to sell to businesses, like your first clients, that sort of thing? Were they jumping on board because they saw the value, or was it hard to sell because it's a new idea, a new product?
I think it's neither. So our first customers were friends for my grandma's friends. She invited us to her gardening clubs, so they had monthly meetings, and we just put a small table. We had, the small bags, giving out free samples, selling larger bags, and they believed in us, probably because we did a good pitch, and because I'm because my grandma told them to buy from us. So those were our very first customers. I always refined the pitch. So I always believed first on the carbon removal potential. We didn't call it carbon removal at that time because I knew that it was something that should be valued, but nobody cared at that point. I mean, not this audience. They wanted to save on fertilizer. They wanted to have a pre-reared garden, and we could provide that. So we switched our pitch, and so for many years we were selling better gardens. We didn't sell to agriculture. We didn't sell for carbon removal. We just buy our product, and you will have a pre-reared garden, and it will be less complicated to maintain. And we did. I mean, our customers are. I mean, I still see a couple of them, and they're very happy. I mean, my parents particularly. I mean, their garden is amazing, still.
When did you realize, or when did you make the shift from, making people's gardens prettier to agriculture and larger scale production?
So that's when the carbon removal market came into play. So it was 2022, and I have always, I have an alert for any news related to biochar just to see what other people are doing. I mean, biochar, we're not the only biochar business. I mean, not even in Mexico, but other, in the European market was always a little bit more sophisticated. They had better pyrolyzers, and we saw a very interesting news release. It was that Microsoft bought carbon removal credits certified via Puro Earth, which is a Finnish company, from a biochar company. And that's when it clicked. I saw immediately, okay, if we get carbon removal credits to this business, then we can make it profitable, and then we can scale. And so I had a discussion with my brother. We said, okay, if we made a back of the envelope calculation and said, okay, if we get carbon removal, we can actually make a living off of this. And we decided, okay, I had my years as a chemical commodities trader. I made good money. I realized that, okay, I have my customer base. I could always come back at some point. So I also had a very honest discussion with my wife, because of course it would mean certain sacrifices. She was all in. So we decided to, okay, the discussion wasn't let's go and build a business and be successful right from the start. It was, okay, let's see how far we can get. I mean, we knew how to make biochar, but of course at a very, very small scale. We knew that the business model was viable. We didn't know anything else. So I discussed that with my brother. Okay, let's see how far we can get there. If we see that it's nothing viable, then okay, we'll just keep it as a hobby. Let's keep it as a side hustle, something like that, just because we like to do it, and let's continue with our respective careers, and nothing happens. Maybe we'll get another opportunity later. And it turns out that we haven't stopped.
3 years later.
3 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah, and every week is better than the last.
It's interesting because everybody at some point makes that shift from, maybe it's a stable job, maybe they start something super young, but it's a sacrifice, as you mentioned. And you had the support of your wife, which is incredible. Some people don't have that. It's a lot scarier when your partner is saying, no, we can't do that, or you can't do that, or whatever. In that shift from leaving something stable to starting your own thing and going all in, what was the most challenging part?
Well, of course, the economics was... It can be very scary to be on such uncertain terms. Of course, you don't know when your next paycheck is coming to be. We're just profitable into the last month. It's been a journey, but of course, along the way, we got some very good investors. We got our pecan shell supplier, which is the biochar that we do now. They invested money in us. Of course, my brother and I, we spent basically all our savings and a little bit more on that. Our family is also supported us once we proved that we had a nice business model. The journey was always, let's see how far we get. It was always, okay, we have an exit. We always have an exit, and we always, it gives you a little bit of peace of mind. So we never went crazy. It was very stressful, yes, but we never went crazy. We never went desperate. We always kept, okay, let's do this. And because everybody had agreed that we could always just step aside, that was fine, until we made our first major investment. This was the first few years. Once you made a major investment, on a pyrolysis unit that you have to install and you have to make sure that it works. And then you hire people who, it's different when you hire a co-founder or you hire, your initial team for a software startup. They always know that the next paycheck may never come. Once you hire people to actually operate the process units, these are people who have families. They need a stable job. You definitely cannot afford to not pay them. We never missed a paycheck, but it took a lot of sacrifice and a lot of stress to make it to the end of the week for many times. That was also a very important shift when we realized, okay, we now have 35 employees. Every one of those depends on the income from this company to sustain their families. That's not something that you can take lightly. It's a different kind of stress, but still a bit of stressful, not as a startup, but as a more established business.
35 employees in 3 years.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That growth is incredible. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when we chatted previously, you mentioned that you didn't take a paycheck for the first year or two.
Yeah, for the first year, I didn't have a paycheck. Even a couple of months ago, I still skipped paychecks for myself. Because of course, you have to pay your employees first. That's always a priority.
What is the conviction level that's required? This is going to work or it's going to go down in fire. What is that for you? At what point did you realize that this is going to work, and if it doesn't, because now you don't have that fallback, right? You can go back to commodities trading if you wanted to, but you're far past that, and the possibility of your business, that it's working, it's proving itself. Was there a shift in a mindset that happened over the past 3 years where you're like, this is it, and I'm going to continue doing this forever?
Yeah, but it was gradual. The first major milestone was getting the process unit to work, which also took months. We got the first unit. We eventually realized that the person who sold it to us had no idea what they were talking about. And luckily, I'm a chemical engineer. I was able to save the process unit, and we got it working. So when we first got the biochar, that was something that was very reassuring. We realized, okay, we will be able to create this amount of biochar. At that point, it was about 20 tons per month. Sorry. So we realized, okay, if we sell it at that price, then we can probably get it. Another one, and it was a very, very big one, is that one of our early customers, an American company, they loved our product so much. In fact, they were actually looking for potential biochar, and they weren't happy with current suppliers. Nobody was making good potential biochar. It's a little bit challenging. We can go hours into details into why it's very challenging to create potential biochar. But the point is, so far, this customer wanted potential biochar and was not able to get it from anybody who would be up to the standard that they wanted. And it turns out we were. We always, and honestly, it was a bit of an accident. We know that we were doing things well, but sometimes you don't realize that you're doing it so well that you're actually outcompeting on quality. So once we got, the first few shipments, of course, there were some details on the first shipments as always, we were just a new company. They loved it so much from the first few months that we signed an offtake agreement, a 5-year offtake agreement. And so once we got that, it was, okay, wow, we're doing something worthwhile. People actually want to pay for this. And yeah, that's when we realized, okay, I think this thing is getting a bit serious.
Getting some traction, yeah, 100%, no doubt.
Yeah.
How do you quantify the quality of your product? Because you said, you mentioned that previously they weren't happy with this. They weren't happy with their suppliers, and then they were super happy with you and your product. What are the elements that quantify quality of biochar?
The most important one is the processing temperature, the pyrolysis temperature. Normally, the higher you go, the more stable the carbon is, and the better the porosity and the better the conditions. However, your yield goes down. For example, if you're, just thinking about a fireplace. So you built a small fire, you're doing your s'mores and your cookout, whatever. You always notice that the first thing that comes out is a very smoky kind of flame. So that's the water vapor. So you're finishing the drying of the wood, and after that, then you get a very nice flame, that's almost vaporless, but you still see a flame. After the flame goes out, you have the coals left. They still generate heat, but they are not generating any flame. So what we're doing with the pyrolysis is we're taking all the vapors out, all the flame out of the pecan shells. So if you burn our biochar, which you shouldn't, but it's honestly, it's way too expensive for you to use it as a fuel. But if you use it as a fuel, you won't get any vapors, you won't get any flame. It will just burn as coal, as a good quality barbecue coal. What we were able to do is we had a very good gas, syngas, which is what we call the volatiles extraction system, that allows us to operate at a very high temperature for very long periods of time. So our biochar is not only being pyrolyzed at a very high temperature, it's also very stable throughout the process. So our kilns work 24/7. We don't have these start-stop cycles that other biochar producers have, and that start-stop cycle affects your uniformity. If your conditions are stable, your quality will be stable. And that's what our customer loved about us. We were able to do something that so far no other biochar company has done, which is work actually for months. Our record is 4 months without stopping the process unit.
If this knowledge is available, like people maybe look at your company or whatever the case may be and realize that you're able to do this and create a higher quality product based on the conditions that you're inputting, why aren't other companies doing it?
There's a big technology bias. So they're doing overcomplicated pyrolysis units, pyrolysis reactors, pyrolyzers that they have too many sensors, they have too many gas routing, they purify the syngas too much, they're routing it through very thin pipes throughout the system. And what that causes is whenever any parameters are not met, you have to stop. And so they don't have this inertia, so to say. And the most common problem that I see in other pyrolyzers is their syngas, they cool it at some point, it condenses into a bio oil, which is something that some people extract and they sell it. My suggestion to them is don't bother, just make a sturdy pyrolyzer, one that, of course, has the necessary safety features, the necessary afterburner, because of course, if you let out this gas, it's basically methane and hydrogen. It can be very polluting, so you need to actually burn it away. My suggestion to them is just make it sturdy, not more sophisticated.
Right. So they're overcomplicating the process.
Yeah. That's what I've seen. Our kiln, it's not simple at all. It's still rather complicated, but the gas flow is very simple. We just send it from the pyrolysis chamber straight through the combustion chamber, where it generates the heat to maintain the reaction going, and then after that to a post incinerator, just to ensure that stable temperature conditions, to ensure that any methane is combusted, any residual volatiles are combusted, and making sure that whatever we exhaust is completely clear. You see our it was there's one anecdote that one of my business partners went to visit the facility it was I think it was a Saturday. He got angry because he believed that nobody was working. It appeared that nothing was happening. Nobody was moving anything. And he looked at the exhaust, nothing is coming out of it. And he called me angry. Nobody is working. What are you doing? Get a hold of your team. And he was, no, it's fine. That's the way it's supposed to work. You look at the process, and you open one of the trap doors. You will see the fire, you will see the combustion. But if you're outside, you may feel the heat, but you won't hear anything and you won't see anything. That's how we know that it's working.
How did you get to that stage? Obviously, a lot of experimentation, right? Like you said this technology existed, but nobody was doing it to the scale. Was it constant experimentation to constantly improve the product and make sure that it's working? Yeah,
and we're still on it. We're actually right now designing the new generation of pyrolyzers, which of course takes some of the lessons learned from the original, which was not our original design, but it was heavily modified by us. So on the next generation of our pyrolyzers, we will introduce all these lessons learned. And if it works as we expect it to do, then we have an easier path to scale. either by us or by other companies that are interested in replicating this model.
So do you think you would actually sell manufacture the units themselves and sell to others, or would you like to keep your competitive advantage, if you will?
Oh, we will want to keep our competitive advantage for as long as we can. But yeah, we realize that for a path to larger scale, I mean, there's only so much that one operator can do. We have more than enough work for the next 5 years. But 5 years from now, I mean, maybe we can think about just selling, very efficient process units and give other biochar entrepreneurs the pyrolyzer that I wish I had at the very beginning.
Interesting. That's really cool, because you've done all the legwork to create a great product, and now it's producing for you, but you also have a essentially proprietary product that you could sell if you wanted to. Yeah. Maybe
in the future. I mean, So far, I mean, right now my business partner we still have a lot of pecan shells available at our current site and in Parras. So let's finish up those pecan shells, and then we can think about going into other sites.
What do you find is the hardest part about being an entrepreneur, being a founder in the business that you're in?
Well, I mean, in the carbon dioxide removal business and the biochar business, there are two completely different industries. Completely different. I mean, with one, you're talking about agriculture. I mean, you're talking to farmers, you're talking about commercializers, distributors. And on the CDR side, you're talking about most companies that buy carbon removal. I mean, you're talking about the Microsoft, the JP Morgans, those kinds of companies that are very sophisticated and have their tech approaches. For my personal experience, it was a very fortunate thing that I worked with commodities trader, because I got a bit of experience of dealing with both sides. It was just a lot of coincidences. But I mean, is it hard? Yeah, I mean, it's hard, and I see it for my other carbon dioxide removal companies, which is not only biochar. I mean, you have enhanced rock weathering, ocean volcanic sediment, even direct air capture, and we basically all know each other, and they all have challenges. Nobody has the same challenges. It's still too new to be generalizable. And however, one thing that we do have is the uncertainty. I mean, you don't know if your process is going to work, and you won't get a customer for the carbon dioxide removal if they don't know that your process works. We all been fortunate because we had the biochar part first, and then we'll sell for the CDR. But I've seen other companies, biochar companies, that go for the credit side, for the carbon dioxide removal credit side first, and then leave biochar on a second place, and they have widely different results. There are a couple of them that are very successful, but there are others that, I mean, just didn't complete the journey.
Yeah. That's really interesting, because you hear these stories about companies that go for the credits side first, right? And then they have problems with the manufacturing side, because that's not that is the foundation, right? You need that side to work before you can go over the credit route. For people that don't understand, can you explain how the credit system works?
As I mentioned earlier, just let's think about the journey for the pecan shell. So the pecan shell gets generated at the pecan processing facility. The shell is a waste. I mean, you cannot extract any value from it. It traditionally goes to landfill. A small amount goes as mulch for the pecan orchard that's around where we are located, but most of it just goes into landfill. So if you think about a carbon molecule, when it was harvested by the pecan tree, by photosynthesis, it gets stored in the shell, and in the wood and in the leaves and everywhere. However, the shell keeps the carbon molecule, and there's a point where we intervene. So if we don't do anything, if we didn't exist, the pecan shell would eventually decompose. And so that carbon molecule will transform into carbon dioxide or methane, because it goes into a landfill, and it will go back to the atmosphere, and it will create, it will be a carbon emission. It will still be neutral, because of course the pecan tree harvested the carbon dioxide, and then it's just going back. So it's still a carbon neutral process, because it's just working on the short carbon cycle, which is what we call the natural carbon cycle. The plants store CO2, but then eventually die, release the CO2 back. So it's a short-term storage, whatever happens in biomass. If we intervene and we pyrolyze this pecan shell, the carbon transforms into a very stable form of carbon. So it's charcoal essentially, or coal. It's actually closer to coal than it is to charcoal. And this kind of carbon, it's basically impossible for for any living being, any living organism to extract energy from it. So what that means is it doesn't degrade, it doesn't decompose. So the carbon, at least for a biological pathway, it's prevented from returning from the atmosphere. However, it can still be burned. What we do to solve that, we sell exclusively to agriculture, where we know that we have a co-benefit of improved yields and fertilizer savings and water savings, and we ensure that the farmer stores the biochar underground. And because it's so diluted, you can say that there's no reasonable way of somebody going to the farm, extracting the biochar back and burning it as fuel. That doesn't happen. It's impossible. Who would bother to do that? There are easier fuels to get there. So if we do that, we also prevent the other significant oxidizer, which is combustion. If it's not used as fuel, then we can ensure that the carbon will stay underground for hundreds or thousands of years. Of course, all of this, that's the general framework. And we work with Puro Earth. They're a Finnish company. They're part of NASDAQ for the stock exchange. They have a very strict guidelines for how you can prove that you did that. And it includes monitoring how you get your feedstock, monitoring how you process the feedstock, lab tests for your biochar, ensuring traceability for the entire custody of the biochar. There's actually a big sub-industry in the carbon dioxide removal industry, which is the MRV, that's measuring, reporting, and verification. And these are companies that give you the frameworks to ensure the traceability, that it works, that you're actually submitting evidence, the appropriate evidence, to ensure the entire chain of custody. In our case, we use Kula. Kula, they're a great company, German company. We're very happy with them, and they get the evidence in the appropriate way to don't have any gaps from the harvesting of the pecan shells until the very end result in the company. So we get all of that evidence, which is most of it, the operational evidence, which is logged by Kula. We always upload the receipts and the pictures and everything, and the description of the process. And it's a very, very long audit package. That's how we call it. We submit it to Puro. First, they decide that, okay, you comply with all the requirements. Then they send them to another third-party auditor. So that's not Puro, that's a third party. And then they decide, okay, yeah, you comply with the process. And that's when they get an output report, and they assign the carbon dioxide credits from us. More or less, for every dry biochar ton that we produce, we have to subtract, of course, the emissions that the facility generates, the logistics emission, which is, because we sell to the US, that's our biggest contributor of emissions. So we have all the carbon removal that we generated by creating the biochar. We subtract all the emissions that it took for it to get there, and then they assign the credits to us, which is what we then sell.
Quite a complicated process.
Oh yeah, it's very complicated.
So in simple terms, correct me if I'm wrong about any of this, but you are offsetting the emissions, obviously, that are happening. And then companies like, you get credits for the offset emissions. And then companies like Microsoft, who are creating those, they would buy them for you to offset their own kind of production.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's the way it works. And something that's very important about the cereal industry and the buyers, just the industry dynamics, is that the carbon dioxide removal and biochar, it's one of the most expensive ways of removing carbon. And that's also reflected on the price. So
the credit price.
Yeah, the credit price is, it's between $130 to maybe $200 per credit, which is on the higher end. And the kind of companies that buy these credits, there are not, your Freightliner who wants to offset their gasoline emissions. That's not never happens. The people the companies that buy these kinds of credits, those are companies that are already very invested in sustainability. They already have, solar panels in their offices. They already have a waste reduction management. They already did the most important parts of to reduce their carbon footprint and improve their sustainability. These are companies, they're not buying indulgences. They already did the work. But of course, they always have, that last bit. The last bit is always the hardest one to mitigate. And that's when carbon dioxide removal comes in.
These companies aren't required by law to do this, right? It's their own good faith, their own public image, and they want to do this to so that,
or promises to their investors.
Right, yes.
Yeah,
but there's plenty of companies, like you said, the Freightliners as an example, not to finger point, but there are companies that decide not to, but obviously their emissions are high, so they probably should.
Well, yeah, but of course, the thing about that is for who actually buys carbon removal, I always think about it as a marginal carbon price. So let's say that you're a company. Let's say you're a hotel. You're a hotel and you want to reduce your carbon footprint. So the first thing that you would do is probably you will electrify. If you have a gas water boiler, let's switch it to electric. Maybe it will cost you, I don't know, I'm just saying numbers out of the top of my head, that will cost you $20 per carbon ton removed. So yeah, that's an easy investment. Let's do that. Then let's put solar panels. That's also, let's say, I don't know, maybe it's lower. Let's say it's $15 per carbon ton removed. And so you begin to do this first interventions, and then you will have a much more efficient hotel. But of course, you need I don't know, you offer rides to the airports to your customers, and of course you have a van. You cannot afford to have an electric van, and so you have a gasoline-based or a diesel-based van. So maybe that emission, to eliminate that marginal carbon that's emitted by that van, then you would have to buy an electric van, which are, at least here in Mexico, they are still very expensive. So maybe you decide, okay, if we will have to spend about $400 per carbon ton removed, maybe let's buy from Tierra Prieta or from other of the CDR companies that are selling you at around $160, $180 per ton, and mitigate, offset those emissions with carbon dioxide removal. But of course, you won't go to carbon removal if you still, if you still have the $15 opportunity for solar panels or electrifying the water heater, electrifying the kitchen. You won't go to CDR first. That will be your last resort.
So who's setting the price of these credits? Is it you? Is it your company? Or is it part of the verification process of these third party?
No, that's, because it's all voluntary. We still have, Puro publishes their index, CDR.FYI. They're also doing great work sharing data from the industry. But at the end of the day, it's a seller's market. So we set the price, and then we decide if we sell to someone.
And these companies that you work with in Germany and that sort of thing, would their verification of your process add value to the credit itself?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Of course, because it is a seller's market, you can there is a price premium on the quality. So if you have a very high quality carbon project, there's ratings by Silvera, B0, just to mention a couple of them, then you can argue that you should be paid more because you bring other co-benefits. This is still not a commodity market. So, not all biochar credits are the same, not all direct air capture credits are the same. So if you have, for example, Tierra Prieta, we create jobs, in a small town where people who want a stable year-round job have to go elsewhere. You have to go to Torreón or Saltillo to get a stable year-round job, because it's the Parras economy is very seasonal. It's very based on tourism and farm work. So of course you don't have tourism every day of the year. You don't have farm work every day of the year. So if you offer this kind of jobs, then maybe you're improving the community, which I'm certain that we are. That's what our employees tell us. So maybe you can have that as a co-benefit, telling a company, if you invest in us, you're removing carbon, of course, that's the basis of it. You're also improving the crop yield, so we are also indirectly avoiding carbon, because we reduce fertilizer use, we reduce water use. There are a lot of benefits, and if there's also an economic benefit to a small town, that's also something that we can argue to get a better price and people to invest in us, because they know that if they they buy from us, it's not an investment. If they buy credit from us, then we will keep improving the conditions in the community. But of course, everybody has their own story, and the carbon removal sales, they're very personal, so to say. I mean, it's always one-on-one conversations. We have sold a bit of credits, a small amount of credits, just in personal transactions, just on a marketplace. But I mean, the vast volume and the one we're negotiating right now, it's a very one-on-one kind of situation.
Mm-hmm. Because it's almost value alignment, right? It's like, they have to care about the impact that you're having on the small community. Realistically, it's probably a lot of education for you and your team to explain what it is that the impact that you're having, so that they buy in.
Yeah, and not only having the impact, because we know that we're creating a very positive impact, it's how to document it. That's where we have to work on. So, for example, right now we're in a negotiation with a very important company. They told us explicitly, these are our values. This is what we expect from a project that we work with. We realized, okay, I think we are a good fit, and I was able to prove that we are a good fit. And now they ask me, okay, all good. Now document it. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're doing right now.
Wow. And is it mostly you personally that's doing these negotiations?
Yeah. So the way that the team is structured is I'm in charge of anything that's related from the business outward. So I work as CEO, and my brother Alejandro, he handles anything that's related to the operation and from the business inwards. I don't know if there's a term for that, but I mean, we call it COO and CEO. And so anything related to negotiations for carbon and anything that's outside, that's looking outside from the business, that's what I handle personally.
And you're sold out right now, correct?
Yeah.
For how long?
I mean, if all goes well, 4 or 5 years at least.
So then what's next? What are you working, what's the plan right now?
First of all is getting this contract signed, which will be very important. I mean, what do we expect? I mean, of course, maybe I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but if we get this contract for 5 years, then we can prove to the banks that we have a stable customer for our biochar, we have a stable customer committed long-term for the carbon removal credits, lend us some money so we can expand.
And what would that expanding look like? Would it look like more facilities?
At first, it will be expanding our current capacity at the Parra site. I mean, because we still have plenty of shells available, and we still have demand from our customers. So that will be the very, very first step. After that, it will be expanding into other pecan growing regions. We have identified a few. I mean, northern Mexico and South Texas, even a bit of New Mexico. There are the largest pecan producing region in the world. I mean, because it's a native tree, of course, this is where it comes at. And I mean, eventually we want to have every pecan processing facility working with us and just specialized in pecan shells. I mean, biochar, you can do it out of almost anything, but we found out that we have an advantage by processing pecan shells efficiently, which I mean, also most other pyrolysis can process pecan shells. But so far as I know, nobody can do it at such a high quality. So we just want to lean into that. And I think we have plenty of work ahead of us for the next couple of years on that.
You said this, like negotiations with banks, getting lending, that sort of thing. It sounds, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like it's complicated because you are sold out for 5 years and you still are having, maybe not having issues, but troubles finding funding or negotiating with banks, et cetera, which to me seems, if you can prove that you have all of this revenue and you have these great relationships and partnerships, that it shouldn't be that complicated. Do you think that's just a geographical thing, or what's the complication there?
Well, I mean, it's definitely geographical because, I mean, I've seen companies in Canada, in the US, in Europe that are on a much earlier stage than we do, and they get bank loans for 10% interest rate. And they complain that 10% is too high. Yeah, definitely. And here, I mean, we're scrambling. I mean, it's very different. I mean, and even for the banks that say that they would lend and invest in sustainability-based projects, that's something that they just say to put on their ads and stuff like that. They don't really lend to projects like us, even if we can prove that we have a very realistic path to profitability and that we have followed it to a point. The banks last year were doing it now, right on time, and they still won't lend to us.
Why?
I mean, it's just a matter of how banks work here in Mexico, I guess. I mean, of course, there's a bigger credit risk just in general if you're investing in a Mexican company than if you're investing anywhere else. But yeah, so far we haven't gotten any at all bank loans. I mean, the only bank loans that I had are personal loans that I have, but because I have a good credit, and then I take it and put it on the business. But that's a credit that they gave to me, not to the company.
Do you foresee that changing? Like what would be required for that to change?
Oh, when we were able to go into banks outside Mexico. We've tried, and there's actually a couple of companies that are leaning into offtake financing, which is what we intend to have, using the offtake deals as collateral. I think we will be able to get that maybe by the end of the year, or at least have serious discussion that don't they close the door in our face immediately, which is what happens here in Mexico. But yeah, I mean, I think we will have better luck with banks in Europe and the US than we would here in Mexico. I mean, Mexico, I actually got maybe saying that there's no success. There is one case, they offered me 100,000 pesos, which is $5,000, a little bit more, at 85% interest rate, a bank.
What? Recently?
Yeah, recently.
$5,000
Yeah.
for 85%.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not success.
I mean, I got angry. No, that's not a success at all. They just don't support companies like us. And they will say that they do, and they even have conferences saying that they do. No. I mean, the money's not on the ground. I don't see it.
Where is this money going then? Like, because banks are lending, I assume. So where and why, in your opinion?
I mean, because Mexico, of course, it's a bit more of a credit risk. I see, just listening to the community and friends and family. I mean, I know that they're investing a lot in real estate. They're investing a lot in more established companies. I mean, of course, if you're a more established companies, that doesn't matter. Some banks require 3 years of positive results, and of course, I mean, we have 3 years in total. I mean, as in this version of the business, of course, we have more years, but it was we don't count that as we wouldn't try to get credit out of those years. I mean, it was a very small operation. But I mean, you do see banks moving money here in Mexico, but it's not to these kinds of projects.
So is private investment, like external, like, from the States or Europe or whatever the case may be, an option for you? Have you explored that? Or
we did explore that at the very beginning. We realized that we were a terrible fit. So maybe something that I should also mention that maybe doesn't affect the bank deals, but would affect how private capital thinks about these sort of deals. So there's a concept in carbon removal called additionality, specifically financial additionality. So that's the concept that if you are claiming carbon credits, you must prove that your work wouldn't have happened without income from the carbon credits. If you frame it that way, then it sounds fair. I mean, if I'm buying a carbon credit for you, I'm not going to buy to pay you for something that would have happened anyway. So on that end, I mean, you think, okay, that's fair. But it also has a very important implication, which is that because of this financial additionality constraints, if you create let's say a biochar business, let's say that we find ways to reduce the price tremendously, improve the quality, improve the price, and it turns out that we would be able to survive just on biochar income alone. If we do that, then we will lose the carbon credits. So it's very hard. I mean, if you go to a private...
It's a balance.
Yeah, it's a balance. But if we go to private capital, I have to tell them outright. I mean, we are very stable. We have we think that we can grow. Of course, we won't be VC-backable. I mean, those are different expectations. But I also have to tell them there's a cap on how profitable we can be.
And that would limit, because then if they're purely capital driven, then they would look at something that has higher potential.
Exactly. I mean, we're not attractive as an industry. And this is an industry-wide problem. This is not just a biochar problem.
Right. So then you really have to align with people that care more about, less about the capital gains and more about the impact.
Yeah. I mean, people are not here to make money. That's the point.
Yeah. Fascinating.
I mean, maybe to make a decent living. Yeah. I mean, that's what I hope about it. But I know that I won't be a millionaire out of this business.
How do you go about marketing? Like, obviously you've been successful at it, and are you doing any, or do you find it's coming to you, or how does that look?
No, basically we don't do any marketing at all. because the industry is so small and everybody knows each other, I mean, it's just getting one-on-one conversations. So it's very, I mean, maybe it is marketing, I mean, which is, just checking in with someone from this company, somebody else from this company. I do a couple of, I don't travel to a lot of conferences, but I do try to go twice a year to a couple of them. And whenever I travel, there's the industry also gathers and we have a chance, let's go for a cup of coffee, let's have a meeting. And it's all just very personal. I mean, there's not like we have a billboard, selling recycled carbon removal. I mean, that's not our market. Our market is very, very small, and the best way to go at it is just go target it.
So it's just all these one-on-one conversations that are happening. And do you find that most people that you're chatting with, I mean, I've learned so much through our conversation already. Do you find most people are like me, or do they already have some sort of base knowledge?
No, I mean, they definitely have a base knowledge. I don't think I've ever had to a potential buyer to explain what biochar is and the carbon removal. They already buy carbon removal. I mean, there's still a very small amount of companies that actually buy these products. And of course, for the biochar side, because we sell exclusively to one distributor who wants to buy everything. So it's good that we don't have to do any marketing on the biochar, because we can focus on improving the quality, improving our service, and keeping this customer happy, which I think we've done quite successfully so far, and we still have plenty to improve.
I'm always curious about working with family members. And you mentioned, you're a co-founder with your brother. How do you guys manage that relationship in business, and then, keep your personal life also happy?
Yeah, I mean, we've always been very close. He's 4 years younger than me. We always know exactly what the goal is. And I think that we're just very good at staying out of each other's way, professionally. So he knows that I'm doing good work here. I know that he's doing a good job there. We talk daily about the business and of course, the things about the finances, or, we have should we hire more people? Should we change this part of the process? But yeah, so far it works great. And it's built on that we had a very good, we still do a good relationship as brothers, and we still have our fun. It's not always business. We still have our brotherly relationship still intact, and I don't know, we just work very well together.
And do you think that's just based on you grew up and you were close and that sort of thing? Or do you think it's because maybe you have a common mission that's to change this industry? Or what it?
Well, it's definitely both. And it certainly helped that he was right there with me, in the garage on a hot summer day, on a hot summer pyrolysis, very simple pyrolysis unit. He's also very passionate about this. So, just sharing that goal tells you that, okay, we're doing this for a reason. Let's go do it. And it works. So I don't know how else to describe it.
No, that's great. What do you think the average person, because the average person listening to this probably doesn't know everything that we just talked about, right? So this is super educational towards them. What do you think the average person needs to know in order to kind of get a general understanding of the industry and how to push it forward in a positive way?
So the most important thing is, and of course this is something that I get a lot with initial conversations about people who don't know about the industry, is to understand that this is a solution for a specific problem. It's not a solution for all problems. This is not a silver bullet for climate change. Of course, we have I think we have a very positive impact on climate change, but we won't solve it by ourselves. And whenever I talk about some people, we create carbon offsets and we help companies mitigate their unavoidable emissions and all that. The knee-jerk reaction is always, so you're letting them off the hook. No, that's not really what we're doing. Or telling me, you remove carbon. Well, let's better invest in solar. Let's invest in waste reduction management. And I say, of course, we still have to invest in all of that. This is just one solution for one problem. And it's not the solution for most people's problems. Of course, carbon removal is not competing for financing from clean energy. Of course, our priority should be still clean energy. This is just, and honestly, if I was in it for the money, I would also go to clean energy. this is, I mean, I'm stuck here just because I don't know, a little bit crazy about biochar, and I want to keep doing this. This is not, and I'm doing this because honestly, I'm good at it. And if I were good at clean energy, then yeah, maybe I'll be doing something clean energy and be a millionaire by now. But no, I'm with biochar. This is what I want to do. This is what I know how to do. This is what, I mean, the only job that I've ever had that really lets me sleep at night, with satisfaction. I just want to keep doing it. And yeah, I'm not taking financing out of anybody else. In fact, I'm not taking financing from anyone. We basically funded this ourselves. Yeah, I mean, this knee-jerk reaction of, yeah, you're just covering for other people's sins. No, I mean, that's
just not true.
That's just not true. That's a very generalizable term that I think it's quite unfair.
Yeah, 100%. I think the fact, and I mentioned this when you first started chatting today, that the passion is so clear, and I think it's fascinating because there's a commonality between entrepreneurs that we've chatted with on the show, and it's that if it's passion first, they're not chasing the money, then that's when the good things happen, right? And that's been clear with your success and trajectory so far.
Yeah, and I think that's also kept us from going into other paths that could not be as good. For example, we did have early on, offers for investment, from this sustainability-focused VCs and funds, but they wanted, go for credits first. Or, I mean, I remember one very specific one where we were just pitching our idea, and they told us, yeah, but what are you doing about biodiversity? And I said, I'm not doing anything about I'm neutral about biodiversity. Why do I have to do something about that? I mean, not that it's not an important problem, but I mean, I'm this solution for this problem. If you want a solution for that problem, go somewhere else. And I see that with other, especially biochar founders that, and I always talk about this very openly. If you're taking that sustainability capital from elsewhere, you need to make sure that they don't pull you in too many directions. I've seen that way too often. They want you to be a solution for everything, and they want you to create a lot of credits at the very beginning, and that's not just the responsible way of going. I mean, we were fortunate enough to, to fund the company with ourselves and our potential business partner, and we were able to go patiently, slowly, strategically, taking sure steps. And that's only something that we were able to, resist the temptation of getting outside money, because as you mentioned, because we were so passionate about it, and I want to do this for the rest of my life. And the other options that we had, they were, so to say, more traditional startup ideas that are looking for an exit at some point, and we don't want an exit. If a VC gives us money and they want a 10x exit, then no, I'm
not a right fit.
No, we're not a fit at all.
Yeah, I think that's, stay in your lane, do what you're good at, do what you want to do, right?
Yeah, we can make a living out of it. We already sustain 35 families. Yeah, we don't have to do the startup playbook. We're just doing the small and medium business playbook.
What does success look like to you?
Oof. I'm just one of those persons that maybe when I even get it, I won't even realize it. I'm just going one step at a time. I'm still in the same mindset that we originally discussed with my brother. Let's just see how far we can get. I don't know how far we can get. And maybe I don't want to know. I'll just want to do one step at a time, and let's see what the next one is. And I don't know where this thing is going to end, but I'm liking the journey so far.
Beautiful. And based on the trajectory, 3 years, man, that's incredible. It really is. So I'm really excited to follow along.
No, yeah, happy to keep chatting. This is maybe 1 week from now we will be in a different position.
Well, that's what you're saying. By the end of the week? Well,
by the end of the week, probably.
Right on. Well, Andrés, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for explaining everything and enlightening the audience on this technology and what you're doing. It's incredible.
No, yeah, thanks, and it's been a pleasure.